Over the years in this hobby, you slowly start picking up little tricks, things that most people never talk about. Some of them solve problems you didn't even know had a solution, and others simply make running an aquarium a lot easier. So in this video, I want to share 5 aquarium tricks that nobody talks about, but that can be the difference between a healthy aquarium and a total disaster. Good flow is very important in a planted aquarium. It helps move nutrients around the tank, it brings CO2 to the plant leaves, and it prevents waste from settling in dead spots. Without enough circulation, plants can struggle to access the resources they need, and certain areas of the tank can slowly accumulate debris. So improving flow is usually considered a good thing, but when you're dealing with certain types of algae, increasing flow is one of the worst things you can do. Black beard algae and green dust algae often appear exactly where the flow is strongest. If you look closely at tanks with this algae, you'll usually notice something. The worst patches tend to form right in the front of the filter outlets, on leaves that are constantly moving in the current, or on hardscape that sits directly in the path of strong flow. These areas receive a constant supply of nutrients and oxygen, and while that can benefit plants, it can also create ideal conditions for algae that thrive in moving water. This is where many of us accidentally make the problem worse. We see algae, increase flow, and unknowingly make those spots even more favorable for it. Something that can help instead is slightly reducing or redirecting the flow, not eliminating circulation completely, but softening those high velocity zones. When flow is reduced, algae often grows slower in those areas, and this gives your cleanup crew a much better chance to keep up. When growth slows down, they finally start gaining ground. So if you notice algae constantly returning in the same high flow spots, it might not mean you need more circulation, it probably means you need less. Amano shrimp are amazing algae eaters. They are constantly grazing, they clean plant leaves, hardscape, and even the glass. And unlike many other algae eaters, they actually consume a wide variety of algae. Because of that, they are incredibly popular in the hobby. But there's something most people believe about them, that they cannot be bred in freshwater aquariums. And technically that's true, but only partially. Amano shrimp do reproduce in freshwater. Females regularly carry eggs under their abdomen, and if you've kept them long enough, you've probably seen this happen. The reason people say they cannot be bred is because of what happens after the eggs hatch. The little ones cannot survive in fresh water. In nature, Amano shrimp release their larvae into streams that flow into brackish coastal waters. They then develop in those brackish conditions before returning to freshwater as juveniles. Because of this unusual life cycle, most of us assume breeding them is impossible, but it actually isn't. If you set up a small separate breeding tank and watch your shrimp closely, you can move a female that's carrying eggs right before the eggs hatch. Once the larvae are released, they can be raised in a container with brackish water, where they continue their development. After several weeks, the young shrimp transform into miniature versions of the adults, and at that point, they can be slowly acclimated back to freshwater. It takes some patience and observation, but it is absolutely possible, which means that one of the best algae eaters in the hobby doesn't always have to come from the store. If you're finding this video valuable, remember to like and subscribe for weekly videos to help you in your aquarium journey. A lot of people keep a separate quarantine tank for sick fish, and in many situations that can work very well. But there is a problem that sometimes gets overlooked. When fish get sick, they are often already very weak. Moving them into a completely different aquarium means they suddenly have to adapt to new parameters. Different temperature, different bacteria, different water chemistry. For a healthy fish, that might not be a big deal, but for a weakened fish, that shock alone can sometimes be fatal. Something I started doing instead is using a small breeding box inside the aquarium. I originally bought it to separate guppy fry from their parents, but it ended up becoming incredibly useful for something else. When a fish gets sick, I place it inside the breeding box while I treat the tank with medication. This way the fish stays in the exact same water it is already adapted to. No new parameters, no sudden environmental changes. It also solves another problem that happens more often than people realize. When fish become weak, other tank inhabitants sometimes start bothering them. Amano shrimp, in particular, can be relentless. If they notice a weakened fish that isn't swimming properly, they might start picking at it, and the constant stress of trying to escape can make recovery almost impossible. The breeding box creates a small protected space inside the aquarium. The fish continues receiving the medication from the main tank, but it can rest and recover without being chased. Giving a sick fish a quiet place to heal can make a much bigger difference than we expect. Snails can tell you a lot about what's happening in your aquarium. They are extremely sensitive to changes in water chemistry. Sometimes you'll notice a snail crawling up the glass and even slightly above the waterline. And that's completely normal behavior. Snails occasionally leave the water for short periods of time. Sometimes they just need a break, or they are exploring. But when this behavior becomes constant, it usually means something is wrong. If you start seeing multiple snails spending long periods out of the water, or repeatedly trying to climb above the waterline, that is often a sign that the water chemistry has changed in a way they don't like. One of the most common reasons for this is calcium deficiency. Snails rely on calcium to build and maintain their shells. When calcium levels are too low, their shells slowly begin to weaken. Over time, you might notice shells becoming thinner, developing white spots, or even starting to erode. And the reason it's important to catch this early is because the same conditions affecting the snails can also affect plant growth. Calcium is an essential nutrient for plants as well. When it becomes limited, plants can start showing growth problems and weaken tissue. Snails often react to these changes very fast, so paying attention to their behavior can give you an early warning. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned lava rock as a great filter media, mainly because it's cheap, very porous, and provides a lot of surface area for beneficial bacteria. But one of you guys left a comment and mentioned something interesting, that lava rock is far from inert, and that it can release a lot of iron into the aquarium. That comment made me curious, so I decided to look into it a little more. Lava rock is basically volcanic rock, and like most volcanic materials, it contains different minerals inside its structure. One of those minerals is iron. Because of this, we might assume that lava rock will continuously release large amounts of iron into the water. But when you look at the research on volcanic rocks used in filtration in aquariums, the situation is a bit different. Most of the iron inside lava rock is locked within the mineral structure of the rock itself. It is not freely dissolving into the water under normal aquarium conditions. That means lava rock behaves mostly like an inert material once it's in the tank. In fact, lava rock and pumice are commonly used in biological filtration systems, aquaponics, and even water treatment setups, because the rough and porous surface provides excellent habitat for bacteria. Could tiny amounts of minerals slowly leach over very long periods of time? Possibly, but under normal aquarium conditions, the amount is considered extremely small. So in practical terms, lava rock is still considered a safe and effective biological media. The most useful things in this hobby are the small tricks nobody talks about. Little details that make aquariums easier to manage and problems easier to understand. If you know any other aquarium tricks like these, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them.